everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ankita. I'm a Montessori educator, positive parenting coach, and today we are talking about the 5 critical mistakes that happen in the first year. Now, these are not just minor slip-ups. They are foundational errors that create challenges that you will spend years trying to undo. And as a parent coach, I had to talk about this because I see a lot of parents struggling with the same issues over and over again, and they all trace back to the decisions made in the first year of the baby's life. So what makes this especially heartbreaking is that these mistakes are completely preventable when you know what to look out for. So today I'm sharing the 5 biggest mistakes so you can recognize it if you're making them and then understand why they are so damaging to your child's development. Number 1 is creating an overstimulating environment instead of understanding that the environment is actually your baby's first teacher, right? A lot of parents may not know that environment is actually one of the teachers that the baby has, and that teacher is there 24/7, even when they are not actively doing anything. But here's the problem. We are creating environments that are working against our baby's development instead of supporting it. Walk into any child's room and you'll see maybe overstimulating bright colors. You might see some plastic toys, very flashy toys, loud music, visual chaos, right? That can overwhelm a child very easily. But we think this is good because more stimulation means better brain development, right? But no, that's not true. Research shows that babies are incredibly sensitive, and when they are overstimulated, they cannot process information properly. Think about it, your baby's brain is trying to make sense of everything that they see, they hear, they touch. It's too much sensory input to their nervous system, and basically it goes into overdrive, and then they can't focus on anything. So this creates babies who are then fussy, they cry, they can't sleep well, they are agitated. But then parents don't realize that the environment is the problem. They think they have a difficult baby, right? The real tragedy is that these overstimulated babies then later grow into toddlers who cannot focus because they have been used to that stimulation. So they need constant entertainment. They might have meltdown over small things, right? And by age 3, you might be dealing with a child who can't play independently. They get overwhelmed easily. They are struggling with transitions, all because the environment in the first year was working against the child. Mistake number 2 is creating sleep dependencies without observing what your baby actually needs. You know, a lot of parents make these sleep errors that last for a couple of years, and parents automatically assume that their baby needs maximum help to fall asleep without even observing what their baby really needs. From day 1, many parents start rocking, bouncing, right? Every single time without ever giving a baby chance to show them what level of support they actually need. Some babies can fall asleep on their own, but then if you're consistently doing something else, then they'll expect you to do it all the time. So if you're rocking the baby to sleep every single time, then they'll know that's what they need to do because it's learned behavior. And that becomes their expectation. So even though they had the capacity to maybe sleep on their own because they are tired, they don't get that chance. So I would say some babies prefer to be rocked. Some babies prefer to be put down awake. They can settle with minimal help. Some babies may need more hands-on support. But let's not assume that all babies need maximum intervention. Let's test out what they actually need, and let's test out how much help we need to give to our babies, right? Attachment over independence is the golden line in the first 3 years. It basically means that you're going to be responsive, but you're still going to give your children enough time to get to that level of independence. And then it's very, very important that you create routines which really help your babies thrive. Some babies can really sleep anywhere. They can adapt when circumstances change. And, some parents don't realize that and can get trapped into exhausting sleep routines. So I would just say, please observe your children, understand the kind of help they need, and then provide it. I'm not talking about leaving your children crying, none of that, because in the first 3 years, remember, attachment comes before independence. Third mistake could be forcing adult schedules instead of following your child's natural rhythm, Most parents try to make their baby fit into their schedules. Sometimes you may need to work differently because we live in a culture that values productivity and efficiency. So parents think that they need to get their baby on a schedule as quickly as possible. But here's the problem. When you force a schedule that does not match yours and it's against the baby's natural rhythm, you are literally fighting against their biology, right? So this creates incredible stress for both babies and parents because babies have their own natural rhythm. They are alert at some point, they are ready to learn. There are times where they need to eat. There are times when they're tired. This creates incredible stress for both parents and babies because babies have their natural times when they need to learn, when they need to eat, and when they're tired. So when we ignore these signals and we impose our own timeline, then babies become dysregulated, right? They fight sleep. They seem fussy during feeding times. They appear unhappy also for no reason. And parents think they have a difficult baby, but the baby is actually just stressed from constantly having their needs overridden, right? So the long-term consequences are serious. These babies then don't learn how to trust their own internal cues, which affects everything from eating to sleeping to emotional regulation. They become toddlers who could be out of sync, with themselves and may have irregular sleeping patterns or eating patterns. They may struggle with self-regulation. And later on, they are often the children who have attention problems, difficulty with routines, behavioral issues, because their nervous system never learned to regulate properly. Mistake 4 is treating food as nutrition instead of understanding that it's a critical learning opportunity for life. When parents start feeding their baby solid food, they may focus only on getting nutrition into the baby instead of understanding that eating is one of the most important learning experiences of early development. Most parents might spoon feed their babies thinking they're actually helping the baby eat, but then babies who are ready to explore food with all their senses to develop properly, they don't get that sensory input. Babies need to touch, smell, taste, and make a mess with food. This isn't just playing. This is how they develop motor skills and refine senses. And these are all the skills that are later going to be used for writing, right? So when we take over the feeding process, we rob our babies of these crucial developmental opportunities. But the problems don't stop there because babies who are always spoon-fed become toddlers who might not want to eat on their own. They might resist new textures and they might struggle with self-feeding. They might have delays in speech development also because they never got the oral motor practice they needed if they've not chewed enough. And by preschool, these could be children who then maybe cannot eat independently. They might need a screen. They might have limited preferences. And then, of course, you're trying to fix the same issue that was caused in the first year, right? So this is one of the biggest things. And the last one is missing your baby's communication and critical development windows. Now, this might be coming at the end, but it's kind of the big one because most parents don't realize that babies are constantly communicating from birth. But we are so focused on our own agenda that we completely miss these critical signals. Babies have specific ways of telling us when they are ready to learn, when they're overstimulated, when they need connection, when they need space. But because we don't understand their communication style or we may not know what they're trying to tell us, we are constantly working against their natural development instead of supporting it. So what happens here? It creates a heartbreaking cycle when babies feel unheard and misunderstood. They either shut down, they become increasingly distressed, and parents then think their baby is being difficult or fussy when actually the baby is desperately just trying to communicate something important. So what makes this mistake even worse is that there are some critical development windows in the first year, which are the sensitive periods. And once they are missed, it requires much more effort to address later. So there's a specific window for language development, another one for motor skills, another one for emotional regulation. These are skills to be taught at a certain time, but when we miss this window because we are not reading our baby's cues, we set them up for delays and difficulties that actually could have been totally prevented. And then we talk about toddlerhood and all of those skills that they have not learned, then they have to pick up in toddlerhood, and it's a lot more difficult, So of course, we all are trying to be good parents, right? We're trying to do the best for our children, but we also need to know what our babies need, right? And The truth is that, most problems that happen later could have actually been avoided in the first year. It could be attachment or food or routines. So the first year is not just about keeping the baby fed and, the baby sleep well and poop and everything else. There's so much happening. But if we create problems in the first year, we are going to spend years trying to fix it, right? Like how we talked about the overstimulated child who then becomes a toddler who can't focus, or sleep dependencies or patterns that it's hard and difficult to sustain after the first year, right? And the baby who then misses critical learning opportunities becomes the child with delays and struggles with self-confidence, right? If a baby feels unheard, becomes a child who struggles with communication and connection. And the hardest part is then watching parents blame themselves when their toddler has behavioral issues, or when their preschooler really, really struggles with independence, not realizing that these problems often trace back to those crucial first 12 months. So if you are expecting, you have a baby under 1 year old, you have an incredible opportunity to avoid these mistakes entirely. If your child is older and you're recognizing some of these patterns, don't panic. Now use the strategies that can help turn things around. But you need to know exactly what to do. So I'm hosting a free webinar. It's happening on every alternate days, where I'll show you exactly how to recognize these mistakes, give you strategies to work on them from now, and share the exact signs to look for in your baby's communication, create environments, balance all the co-parenting areas, and start supporting your baby and becoming the parent that your child deserves. So join the webinar. And I hope this video was helpful to you. Please subscribe to my channel if you would like more such videos. I don't just share theory, I share practical strategies that you can start using immediately. And the webinar is free, but there are limited spaces. So make sure you register yourself today. I will see you in the next video. Happy parenting.